things that God has given us. And that's what today is really all about. And it doesn't happen without leadership like Governor Braun and his team and Secretary Morales and his team. And so we are just absolutely humbled and honored to be a part of this coalition of states that's growing. And we're the 8th state, but hopefully definitely not the last. We need to see much of the other states. If you're listening from other states, get involved with this. This is the hope and the future of our nation. These people are carrying the torch. These young people are carrying the torch of freedom. And as Ronald Reagan said, freedom is not passed on through the bloodstream. We don't just inherit it just naturally. It has to be fought for, it has to be taught, and then passed on to our children so they can do the same. And that's what we're doing here today. So thank you for being here as part of the media. We really appreciate the coverage. And again, if you're listening to this in the state of Indiana, just know that every school district, we have 290 school corporations in Indiana. We would love to see Club America in every one of those school corporations so that we can promote pro-American values. What does it mean to be a good citizen? What does it mean to be a pro-American, lover of this nation that we have, collectively linking arms with one another to serve our neighbors and to put others over ourselves? And that's what this is about. So God bless you. Thank you. Now, without any further ado, it is a tremendous honor of mine to introduce a Hoosier native and one of the largest voices in the pro-American movement around the nation, Miss Alex Clark. So give it up for Alex as she comes. Thank you. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you guys for being here. It's such an honor to get to be here in my home state. My name is Alex Clark, and before I ever worked at Turning Point USA and with Charlie Kirk, I am a Hoosier. I was born in Terre Haute. I grew up in Floyd County, Indiana, and I went to Floyd Central High School, where I first learned to use my voice to shape culture and perspective. Now, back then, before Donald Trump became president in 2016, conservative students like me were allowed and even encouraged to share our controversial political opinions in class. From writing a column for our school newspaper to hosting a live radio show on 88.1 WNAS, the seeds for who God ultimately planned for me to be as a broadcaster were first planted in Indiana. From 2016 to 2019, I moved to Fishers and I became the co-host of the Joe and Alex Show on WNOW. As an open conservative, it wasn't long before I was being pulled into closed-door meetings and questioned for things that I said on air that didn't fit the approved political narrative. There were people who threatened me with producers whose main job was to keep me quiet on my political views. I was told it was part of my job to host trans girl events and liberal women's marches, whether I liked it or not. I needed encouragement to leave, and I love talking to young women every single day on the air, but I longed to share more than just breaking pop culture news. I wanted to tell them that we live in the greatest country in the world and that we have to fight to keep it that way. Then Josh Tifo, who's here today, invited me to attend my first Turning Point USA event, and I heard Charlie Kirk speak. And in that moment, I knew that God had a plan for me to work in the conservative movement, focusing on an outreach to young conservative female voters. Charlie helped get me out of my radio contract and relocated me to Arizona, where I live today, where I proudly served alongside him for an incredible 7 years. The most important things that Charlie drilled into me are these. Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and to lead with integrity and tell the truth even when the world is against you. In 2020, the vaccine mandates ignited a fire in me to start asking deeper questions about our food system and about pharmaceutical influence and about why Americans are getting sicker despite paying more than anyone else in the developed world for healthcare. As conservatives, these were industries that we trusted without question. But when I started digging into the corruption and the skyrocketing rates of chronic disease, infertility, autism, and childhood illness, I realized something. If conservatives were willing to challenge the government agencies and corporate interests influencing our health, we could change this country. Because without our health, we have nothing. And a sick nation is an easy nation to control. Charlie saw this too. And so Charlie encouraged me to champion the MAHA cause on my show, Culture Apothecary, and within the conservative movement. He took seriously my urging to bring Bobby Kennedy's message into the national conversation. And through Charlie's conversations with President Trump, he got it done. So what came from Charlie backing some of my wild ideas? Well, My audience has stood toe-to-toe with Kellogg's in Michigan over petroleum-based food dyes. They've challenged Bayer over fraudulent glyphosate science contributing to infertility, and they helped defeat pesticide immunity shields now in multiple states. They're homeschooling their kids. They're buying food from their local farmers and ranchers. They're asking hard questions in the pediatrician's office. And on April 27th, thousands will be standing on the steps of the Supreme Court protesting Bayer's role in the mass poisoning of Americans in our biggest MAHA rally yet. With Charlie's support, Culture Apothecary has inspired hundreds of thousands of families to take back their health and their freedom. But even before Charlie and Turning Point USA, none of this would have been possible if Indiana schools hadn't first encouraged me to develop my voice. Because when you teach a young person that they're allowed to speak the truth, even when it's unpopular, you don't just change a classroom, you change a country. And the people who fear free speech the most are the people who know their ideas can't survive without it, or can't survive it. Charlie Kirk taught me how to take that voice and wield it like a sword against bad policy that harms not only Indiana children, but families across America. And that's why we're here today. Free speech isn't dangerous to democracy. Silencing conservative students is. Indiana and Governor Braun's partnership with Turning Point USA means that no student in this state will be threatened, harassed, or silenced simply for wanting to start a Turning Point USA chapter. If a student is brave enough to speak up for their beliefs, the government should be brave enough to protect them. No administrator should be able to redline a student's First Amendment rights because they're conservative. The next Charlie Kirk, the next Bobby Kennedy, maybe even the next Alex Clark, who will carry the MAHA torch, could be sitting in an Indiana classroom right now. And thanks to Governor Braun and the state of Indiana, those students will know something powerful. In Indiana, you don't get punished for speaking your truth. You get the freedom to lead and the courage to change the country. Indiana can now confidently say that it believes in three things in this order: freedom of speech, Wix, sugar cream pie, and roundabouts. Thank you.